Hi, I'm Michael, and this is the story of how my wife took my kids, lied to the court, and almost destroyed me, until one video changed everything. What the judge saw turned the case upside down, and gave me my children back. I never thought I'd be sitting in a lawyer's office, staring at divorce papers, trying to piece together how my marriage collapsed so quickly. My name is Daniel, and just a year ago, I thought I had the perfect life. A good job in cybersecurity, a modest home in a quiet neighborhood, and 2 kids who adored both their parents. My wife, Lila, and I had been married for 8 years. We weren't perfect, but I believed in us. At least, I used to. It all started subtly. Lila became distant, more secretive. At first, I chalked it up to stress. She was juggling her job as a dental hygienist, taking care of the kids and helping her aging mother. I offered to pitch in more. I even suggested therapy, but she brushed it off. Then came the late nights. Just catching up on work, she'd say. Or, Mom needed help with her meds. I trusted her. I truly did. But something in her eyes had changed. When she looked at me, it wasn't the same woman I married. It was as if I was a stranger, sleeping beside her. One night I came home from a client meeting and found the house unusually quiet. The kids weren't home. Neither was Lila. On the kitchen counter was a post-it note. Just a few cold words. We need space. I'm staying. At Mom's, don't call me. My heart sank. I checked the kids' rooms. Empty. Their favorite toys, clothes, even their toothbrushes were gone. Panic gripped me. I called her, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I drove to her mom's, only to be told by her younger brother that she didn't want to see me and had already contacted a lawyer. The next morning, I received the paperwork. She wanted full custody. Full custody. I sat on my couch, numb. My thoughts spiraled. What had I done so wrong? Why wouldn't she even talk to me? Most importantly, where were my children? Why had she taken them without warning? I immediately got my own lawyer. It was clear this wasn't just a trial separation. This was war. I wasn't going to let her take my kids without a fight. My attorney, Mark, was calm and thorough. He laid out a strategy, but he warned me. Lila was accusing me of emotional instability and claiming I created an unsafe environment for our children. I couldn't believe it. Me? Unsafe? I've never raised my voice in front of the kids, never laid a hand on anyone. But her affidavit was full of exaggerations. She painted me as controlling, cold, and borderline abusive. Still, there was one thing Lila had forgotten: our home security system. 3 cameras, one at the front door, one in the living room, and one in the hallway. They'd been there for over a year. Lila barely acknowledged them anymore. I hadn't either, until I realized they'd recorded everything. I dug through the footage. Late-night arguments, her shouting at me, not the other way around. Her yanking our daughter's arm when she was cranky before bed. Her yelling on the phone while the kids sat alone in front of the TV. I found clips of me reading bedtime stories, making lunches, kissing boo-boos. It was all there, unfiltered, unedited. I sent everything to Mark. "This changes everything," he said. Suddenly, the battle wasn't about defending myself. It was about protecting my children. The courtroom wasn't what I expected. I thought it would feel like justice, like truth would naturally rise above everything else. But the moment I walked in for the first custody hearing, I realized this was not going to be fair. Not at first. Lila had arrived early, dressed conservatively, with her mother and a lawyer I didn't recognize. Tall, sharp, confident. I sat beside Mark, trying to control my breathing. I had barely slept. Every minute I'd spent outside of court was either in meetings with my lawyer or reviewing more footage from the home cameras. Every night I missed my kids more than words could explain. Emma was 6 and still liked to hold my hand while she fell asleep. Jack, only 4, would chase me around the yard yelling, "Daddy's it." The silence in the house since they'd left was unbearable. Leila was on the offensive. Her attorney laid out their argument like a script rehearsed to perfection. Claims of emotional neglect, a tense household, and frequent hostile outbursts from me. They said I isolated her, made her feel unsafe, and that she feared for the children's well-being. I couldn't believe my ears. She looked so calm while her lawyer spoke, like she truly believed what he was saying. as if she had rewritten the story in her own mind and started to believe it. My lawyer stood up and calmly refuted each point. "Your Honor," he said, "we have substantial video evidence contradicting these claims." That's when the judge raised an eyebrow. "Video evidence?" "Ah, yes," Mark continued. "Footage from multiple cameras installed inside the shared marital home. The footage spans several months and documents interactions between both parents and the children." The judge nodded. "I'll review the evidence privately before making any rulings regarding custody." Lila's lawyer tried to object, suggesting the footage could be doctored, but we had metadata, dates, timestamps, all verified. The court accepted it. That night, I got a text from Lila. "Leila, how could you?" I stared at the screen. No context, no explanation. Just a cryptic message that felt more like a threat than anything else. I didn't reply. The next day, Mark called me. "The judge reviewed the footage. We've got a hearing set for reconsideration. Things are starting to shift." For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. But Leila wasn't finished. Her lawyer filed an emergency petition, claiming I was emotionally manipulating the children through the camera footage, accusing me of setting her up and invading her privacy. It was a desperate reach, and even the judge seemed unimpressed. But Lila's real move came a week later. She brought in a witness, a neighbor we barely knew. He claimed he'd heard shouting from our house late at night, that the children seemed scared. I recognized the man. He lived 2 doors down and never once spoke to me. Mark leaned over. "They're trying to flood the court with noise, make you look like a pattern of instability." It felt like a losing game. Every step forward, she threw 3 more obstacles in our path. The court couldn't decide overnight. They granted us temporary joint custody, meaning I could see the kids again, but only during supervised visits. The first time I saw them again, Emma ran to me and clung to my waist like she'd never let go. Jack cried in my arms. "Why did you go away, Daddy?" "I didn't, buddy," I whispered, holding back my own tears. "I didn't go anywhere. And I wouldn't. No matter how long it took, no matter how many lies Lila spun, I was going to fight for them, with the truth as my weapon." It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Mark called me again. His voice was calm, but there was a new edge to it, a confidence I hadn't heard since this all started. "They watched the footage," he said. "All of it. The judge asked to schedule a full hearing next week." I stood frozen in my kitchen. "What does that mean?" "It means they saw what we saw, and it's going to make a difference." The footage from our home security system wasn't just a handful of clips. It was months of recorded reality. Not manipulated, not selectively edited, just raw, continuous truth. One clip showed Lila screaming at Emma for spilling juice, calling her useless and clumsy, while Jack sat on the stairs sobbing. Another clip captured her talking on the phone late at night, her voice sharp and cold. "I don't care what he says. Once the kids are legally mine, he won't have any say." There was a pattern of emotional abuse, of calculated manipulation, of control. It wasn't the image of the nurturing, fearful mother her lawyer had painted. Mark compiled everything into a timeline, complete with transcripts and stills. We presented it in court, and this time, I could feel the atmosphere shift. Judge leaned forward, watching the videos on the court monitor. He didn't interrupt. He didn't look away. He just kept watching, occasionally glancing at Lila, who sat stiffly beside her lawyer, her expression unreadable. When the final clip ended, one where Emma asked Lila, "Can we call Daddy? I miss him." And Lila snapped, "Daddy doesn't want us anymore." The courtroom was silent. Then the judge spoke. "Mrs. Grayson, do you deny the authenticity of these recordings?" Her lawyer stood. "We believe this is a violation of privacy." "That's not what I asked," the judge cut in. Lila's eyes darted to the screen. "No," she whispered. "I don't deny it." For a moment, everything stood still. Then the judge turned. To me. "Mr. Grayson, pending further review, I'm granting you unsupervised visitation. A psychological evaluation will be scheduled for both parents, and a guardian ad litem will be assigned to assess the children's home environment." It wasn't a full victory, not yet, but it was the turning point. Outside the courthouse, I finally breathed. The air felt different, lighter. Emma and Jack would be coming to stay with me for the weekend, for the first time in weeks. That Friday, they ran into my arms the moment the door opened. Emma brought a drawing, our family holding hands. "Are you coming home soon, Daddy?" she asked. I knelt beside her. "We're figuring things out, but I promise, I'm always with you." That night, after they fell asleep, I sat alone, in the quiet. I knew this wasn't over. Lila would keep fighting. There'd be more hearings, more accusations. But now, I had truth on my side, and the court had seen it. It wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. It was about protecting my children from a version of their mother I never thought existed. I couldn't shield them from everything, but I could make sure they were safe, heard, and never forced to choose between love and fear. The following week, the court session resumed, this time under greater scrutiny. The mood was markedly different. The judge had reviewed the footage, and the court-appointed guardian ad litem had already visited both homes. I wasn't told what they observed, but I had a feeling it hadn't gone in Lila's favor. Layla entered the courtroom looking tired. Her posture was rigid, and she no longer looked confident or composed. Her lawyer tried to begin with a new angle, that I had installed the cameras to entrap her, that I had orchestrated the whole thing. But the judge didn't bite. "Mr. Grayson," the judge said, turning to me, "can you explain the initial reason for installing the home security system?" "Yes, Your Honor. I travel often for work. I installed them for security reasons and to monitor the kids when they were at home with the nanny or Lila while I was gone. They were never hidden. Lila even helped pick the model." My lawyer handed the judge the receipt and installation notice. It was dated a year before any of this began. With that defense crumbling, Lila was called to testify. She fumbled through her statements, denying outright abuse but admitting to moments of frustration. When pressed about the footage of her yelling at the kids, she claimed she was under stress. Then came the guardian ad litem's report. She stepped up, a calm, middle-aged woman named Karen, and began reading her findings. "In the Grayson household, Mr. Grayson's home, I observed a calm, clean environment. The children were responsive, showed no signs of fear, and appeared comfortable sharing freely. Mr. Grayson demonstrated patience, attentiveness, and emotional awareness in his interactions." She flipped a page. "In the mother's residence, I noticed elevated anxiety in both children. Emma hesitated to speak when her mother was nearby. Jack clung to me during my visit, whispering he wanted to go back to Daddy's." My heart cracked at those words. Karen continued, "It is my recommendation that temporary primary custody be granted to Mr. Grayson pending a full psychological evaluation of both parents. I also recommend both children begin therapy sessions to help them process the separation and familial tension." The room was dead silent. I turned to Lila, expecting anger. But what I saw wasn't rage, it was fear. She wasn't fighting anymore. She was unraveling. When the judge delivered the decision, I almost didn't hear it through the pounding in my chest. Primary custody will be temporarily transferred to Mr. Grayson. Ms. Grayson will receive supervised visitation twice weekly, with a reassessment scheduled in 60 days. Lila didn't speak. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder, but she didn't respond. She stared at the bench, eyes wide and wet. As I exited the courtroom, I felt no triumph, just a deep, aching exhaustion. This wasn't the end. It was a critical pause in a storm that had consumed my life. But for the first time, I could see my kids freely. I could help them heal. That evening, Emma and Jack arrived with overnight bags and shy smiles. We made dinner together, simple spaghetti. We laughed, watched their favorite movie, and I read them the same bedtime story I used to before everything broke apart. As I turned off the light in their room, Emma whispered, "I'm glad we're here, Daddy." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." In the quiet afterward, I thought of Lila. Not with hatred, but with confusion. The woman I married wasn't supposed to become this. She was strong, kind. At least, that's who I thought she was. Maybe the divorce revealed who we really were. Or maybe it created someone I never wanted to meet. I knew the custody decision was only temporary. 60 days wasn't a long time, and Lila wasn't going to sit back and let things go uncontested. I expected she'd fight. What I didn't expect was how far she'd go. 2 weeks after the hearing, I received a letter from Child Protective Services. an anonymous report had been filed accusing me of physically abusing Emma and Jack. My stomach dropped. I called my attorney in a panic. "You've got to be kidding me," I said. "This is retaliation. Lila's behind this." He sighed. "It's not uncommon, but we'll handle it." The investigation was swift. CPS interviewed the kids at school. They visited my home unannounced. They inspected their rooms, checked for bruises, spoke with their teachers, and looked through weeks of footage from the nanny cam. Their report, filed 10 days later, concluded with a simple statement: unsubstantiated. No evidence of abuse. Children appear well cared for and emotionally stable in current environment. I should have felt relieved, but the weight in my chest wouldn't go away. It wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. This was war, and Lila wasn't above using the kids as weapons. My lawyer requested a restraining order to prevent further false claims, but the judge said we'd need more proof of malicious intent. So we waited, documented everything, and kept every interaction formal. One night, about a month into the new arrangement, Emma had a nightmare. She cried out for me, and I rushed in. She clung to my chest and whispered, "Mommy said if we like you more, she'll go away forever." I held her tightly, my voice shaking. "That's not true, sweetie. Mommy's just upset right now. But it's not your fault. None of this is your fault." Later, I spoke to Jack in private. He confirmed it. "She gets mad when we're happy here. She says you're tricking us." My hands clenched into fists. I knew what parental alienation looked like, and this was it. My attorney moved quickly. We filed for full custody, backed by CPS's cleared report and the guardian ad litem's testimony. We requested another psychological evaluation, this time of Lila specifically. It wasn't vindictive. It was survival. For them. For me. The night before the new hearing, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how we got here. Lila had always been controlling, but early in our marriage I chalked it up to stress. She'd planned our wedding down to the minute. She organized every holiday, every vacation, every birthday party. She liked control. I used to think it was a strength, but after I started the company, when I was gone more often, when decisions weren't run through her, something changed. She resented the startup. She resented me for chasing it. I think a part of her felt left behind, even though I tried to include her in every big milestone. But the real shift came after the money started coming in. When the acquisition deal was signed, and I finally told her, thinking it would make things better, she didn't smile. She didn't ask how I felt. She asked what she would get, and then she served me those papers. Now, weeks later, we were about to walk into another courtroom. This time, I wasn't nervous. This time, I had the truth and the footage to back me up. I wasn't going to let my kids be dragged through her bitterness. This wasn't about revenge. This was about peace, and I was ready to fight for it. The courtroom was quieter this time. There was no media, no reporters, just the judge, a clerk, the attorneys, and us. Layla sat across the room, dressed immaculately as always, her face unreadable. She hadn't spoken to me since the last hearing. Not directly. Every message came through her lawyer, and every one of them more aggressive than the last. Her attorney began with claims that I was manipulating the children, turning them against their mother. He referenced moments the kids had allegedly cried during exchange visits. He accused me of emotional destabilization, and said that my workaholic nature made me unfit to be a primary caregiver. Then my lawyer stood. "We are not here to debate hearsay or speculation," he said. "We are here with evidence, tangible, verifiable, and deeply concerning." He handed a flash drive to the clerk. "Your Honor, what you're about to see was captured over the past 30 days on a court-approved nanny camera installed in Mr. Jensen's home, primarily for the safety of the children. This footage has not been edited or altered." The lights dimmed, the first clip played. It was Jack, sitting on the edge of his bed, speaking to Lila on speakerphone. Her voice was faint but clear. "Remember, Jack, if you tell the judge you want to stay with Daddy, I'll be very upset, and I might just have to go away for a long time." The next clip was worse. Emma crying after a visit. "She said I'm a traitor," Emma sobbed. "She said I'm not her daughter anymore because I smiled at you." Gasps echoed from a few in the courtroom. My attorney continued calmly, letting the footage speak for itself. Clip after clip revealed subtle manipulation, emotional coercion, and psychological pressure. Lila using fear, guilt, and shame against two children who were just trying to survive the divorce. The final video was short, but damning. It showed Lila during an exchange, standing at my front door. "You're not their father," she spat at me. "You're just the man who signs the checks. They'll hate you one day, and I'll make sure of it." Silence hung in the air as the screen went black. The judge didn't ask any questions. He simply removed his glasses, sighed, and looked at Lila's lawyer. "Do you have any response?" Her attorney fumbled for words. "Your Honor, these recordings, they may have been taken out of context." "They weren't," the judge interrupted. "I've heard enough." The judge called a recess. Lila stood, hands trembling, lips pursed like she might cry or explode. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months, but there was no apology in her eyes, only fury. During the break, my lawyer leaned in. "She's cornered. I think the judge is about to do something drastic." When we reconvened, the decision was swift. "Effective immediately," the judge said. "Primary custody will be awarded to Mr. Jensen. Visitation for Mrs. Jensen will be supervised until she undergoes a psychological evaluation and parenting classes. This court's priority is the well-being of the children, and the footage has made it abundantly clear that Mrs. Jensen's behavior has been harmful to that well-being." Lila didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just stared ahead, stone-faced, like she hadn't heard a word. Outside the courtroom, I picked up my phone and called my mom. I told her the news. She wept. Then I sat in my car, staring at the dashboard, letting the weight of it all settle. I hadn't won. The kids had, but I couldn't celebrate. Not really, because deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. People like Lila didn't just walk away. She'd be back, and I had to be ready. After the court's decision, life didn't instantly settle into peace. The kids were with me full-time now, and while that was a blessing I wouldn't trade for anything, it came with its own set of challenges. Jack was quiet. He'd always been a thoughtful kid, but now he seemed hesitant to speak his mind, as if afraid every word would be recorded or used against him. Emma clung to me. At bedtime, she'd whisper, "You're not going anywhere, right, Daddy?" "I'm not going anywhere," I'd say every time, but I wasn't sure she believed me yet. I hired a child therapist. We started weekly sessions, one-on-one and as a family. It helped. Slowly, the kids began to laugh again. Slowly, they began to trust again. Meanwhile, Lila was unraveling. At first, she ignored the court order. She showed up unannounced twice, demanding to see the children. The police were called both times. After the second incident, she was warned that further violations would result in legal consequences. Then came the phone calls. Late at night, blocked numbers, breathing on the other end. Sometimes a whisper, "You'll regret this." But I documented everything. I wasn't going to give her any reason to twist the narrative again. And still, part of me hoped that she'd come to her senses, that maybe the woman I once loved was still buried under the bitterness and resentment, that maybe she'd realize what she was doing, not just to me, but to our children. That hope was crushed during our next supervised visitation. The agency had a small warm room with toys, games, and a counselor present. Lila walked in late, dressed sharply as usual, wearing heels too high for the soft carpet. Jack and Emma froze when they saw her. She opened her arms. My babies. Neither moved. Emma stepped slightly behind me. Lila's smile dropped, and she glanced at the counselor. "What did he tell them? That I'm a monster? Did you poison them against me?" "Mrs. Jensen," the counselor said calmly, "this visit is for you to connect with your children, not to confront their father." Lila sat. "Fine, let's play something." They played Candyland. Jack stayed mostly silent. Emma kept looking up at me every few minutes like she needed reassurance that I wasn't going anywhere. Halfway through, Lila leaned close to Emma and whispered something. The counselor caught it. "Mrs. Jensen, we need to keep all communication appropriate and audible." Lila's eyes flashed. "I'm their mother, and I'm here to protect their emotional safety," the counselor replied. "If that boundary is crossed again, this visit will be terminated." Lila stood. "This is a joke." She walked out without saying goodbye to the kids. Jack just stared at the board game. Emma began to cry. That was the last time she saw them in person. A week later, her lawyer filed an appeal, but the footage had already made its way into the hands of a state-appointed guardian. The court denied the appeal almost immediately. Then came the interview. The local news had caught wind of the story, though I'd done everything I could to protect our privacy. Somehow, someone at the courthouse leaked the story. They wanted an exclusive with me. I said no. But Lila? She agreed. She went on live TV, crying about parental alienation, claiming I used money and influence to steal the kids. She denied the footage, called it deepfake manipulation. Accused me of emotional terrorism. People who didn't know us believed her. My inbox filled with hateful messages. Trolls dug up old social media photos and left cruel comments. I wanted to fire back, to go public with the full truth, but I didn't because the kids were watching, and they needed a father, not a fighter. Besides, the truth doesn't need to scream, it just needs time, and time was finally on our side. It had been 6 months since the judge granted me full custody. The storm that had defined the past year was finally beginning to quiet. I'd almost forgotten what silence sounded like. Not the cold, tense silence of an argument waiting to happen, but the soft, peaceful kind that settled in a home where love was safe again. Jack started smiling more. He joined a robotics club at school and had recently won second place in a local competition. Emma took to drawing. Every wall of the house was slowly becoming a gallery of unicorns, castles, and stick-figure families that always included me, her, Jack, and our dog, Luna. No trace of Lila. I didn't encourage that. I didn't erase her either. When Emma asked questions about her mom, I answered honestly, gently, never bitterly. I wasn't going to pass on the poison. The cycle had to end with me. My therapist, yes, I had started therapy too, told me that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without pain. I was working on that part. Professionally, I was thriving. My startup had been acquired for more than I ever expected. I launched a new company shortly after, a modest, smaller venture focused on mentorship and education for young tech entrepreneurs. This time, I wasn't chasing money. I was chasing meaning. One evening, I was sitting in the backyard watching the kids chase each other under the fading sun. Emma had built a castle out of cardboard boxes, and Jack was her brave knight, guarding it from a dragon named Luna. Their laughter, echoing through the warm air, was the sound of life moving forward. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Lila. Tell the kids I love them. No other words. Just that. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel panic. Just sadness. A gentle, aching kind. I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because I didn't know what to say. The court had ordered no contact unless supervised and arranged through legal channels, and she hadn't followed through with any of them. She hadn't attempted therapy. She hadn't shown up for her last 3 supervised visitations. Lila was still lost, and I couldn't be the one to guide her back. Not anymore. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. It was from her. She apologized, not just to me, but to the kids. She admitted to lying in court, to staging moments for the camera, to manipulating the children. She said she was entering a rehabilitation program for emotional abuse survivors, and that she was finally facing her own trauma. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She said she wasn't ready for it yet. I cried, not because I wanted her back, but because that letter told me she was finally beginning the journey I had started a long time ago, the journey of taking responsibility. The kids didn't need to know yet. Not all of it. But one day, maybe, I'll show them the letter. Let them decide how to feel about it. That's their journey. As for me, I'm no longer just a father fighting for his kids. I'm a father being with his kids. I'm no longer defined by betrayal, or courtrooms, or camera footage. I'm defined by pancakes on Saturday mornings, by school drop-offs and bedtime stories, by the love I never stopped giving, even when it felt like no one noticed. I'm not telling this story to get sympathy. I'm telling it because someone out there is about to give up, because they think no one will believe them, because they think the system is rigged, because they're afraid they'll lose everything if they speak the truth. Don't give up. Document everything. Protect your peace. Fight for what matters. Because sometimes the truth needs time. But when the time comes, it shines so brightly even the darkest lies can't hide. And when that happens, you won't just survive. You'll rebuild, and what you rebuild can be stronger than you ever imagined.